We never planned on running a wedding venue. And yet here we are, managing one remotely with no staff, no inventory, and minimal extra work compared to running a short-term rental.
Most people assume that wedding venues require a huge investment in things like tables, chairs, linens, and an on-site staff, but we found a way to do it and keep things pretty simple.
This property makes up to 4 times what a similar Airbnb would make in a single weekend, and we don't even live in the same state.
Over the past year, we've tried to dial in our systems that allow us to run the venue very efficiently without getting caught up in all the complexities that might typically come from a bigger overhead of a wedding venue.
How do you do it?
Today, we're sharing 5 ways that we've simplified our wedding venue operations, how we've streamlined our processes, minimized stress, and made this business as hands-off as possible.
If you've ever thought about turning a short-term rental into a wedding venue, or you're just curious about how we did it, then hit that thumbs up button and let's get started.
The first way we've simplified our wedding venue operations is by ditching the traditional wedding venue model.
Most people think that with a wedding venue comes tables, chairs, catering, bars, and on-site staff, but we intentionally decided to avoid all of that.
Instead, we provide the venue and overnight accommodations, and that's it.
This decision made our lives a lot easier because we don't have to track inventory, replace missing parts, or store all these items between events.
It also eliminated the need for a venue manager or a site coordinator to oversee the logistics of an event.
As it turns out, this has kind of been a selling point with some people. Couples like that they actually have full control over what vendors to choose, decor and style they want to create for their wedding. They get all the control at our venue.
We've hosted everything from fairy tale weddings with soft florals and twinkle lights to edgier ceremonies with deep and moody tones. Because we don't provide a fixed set of furniture and linens, couples are able to bring in what they want and really bring their own vision to life.
That said, we do have some protections in place for when there are events. We require all vendors to provide proof of insurance and to name us as an additional insured party. And if alcohol is going to be served, we require that to be served by a licensed bartender.
These rules help protect us while still giving couples the flexibility to do what they want for their wedding.
The main point here is that by keeping things simple, we've made it possible to run this venue remotely without all the headaches and overhead that come from traditional full-service wedding venues.
I want everybody to be stress-free. You know?
The second way we've simplified our wedding venue operations is by keeping the guest count low.
I think one of the biggest factors that makes this venue manageable remotely is that we keep the guest count low. Intimate weddings at 40 guests or less.
In our case, that's actually the highest that we're allowed to go due to city regulations and zoning laws. But even if we had the option to host larger weddings, we would still cap it pretty low.
Here's why the low guest count has worked well for us. First of all, with a lower number of people, there's less moving parts and people transiting in and out of the house, and it's less likely for a party to get out of hand.
It also means less wear and tear on the property. Larger weddings means more wear and tear on the house, leading to more frequent repairs and maintenance needed.
And finally, I think it's brought in more laid-back couples who are planning a wedding with a small group of people. I think there's a direct correlation towards their easygoing and friendly nature when it comes to planning their party.
Smaller guest list tends to lead to less stress and planning for everyone involved. And I just have a gut feeling that high maintenance brides are not hosting 20-person weddings.
You're ruining my special day!
The third way that we've simplified our venue operations is to keep our pricing and package offerings as simple as possible.
A lot of wedding venues have complex pricing models based on guest count and unlimited add-on customization options.
Simplicity has been a key for us, and we offer just a few different packages, and the pricing is just dependent on how long the guests want to stay at the property.
So what this looks like for us is couples being able to book the property in 24-hour increments of 1, 2, or 3 nights on the weekends.
We also have a package for weekday events, and these are 6-hour blocks where guests might not need overnight accommodations or they just want to access the property at a lower price point.
Our pricing is also super straightforward with 2 different seasonal rates. April through October is our peak season. It's going to be our highest demand and highest pricing. And then November to March is our off season with lower pricing.
We found that since overnight accommodations are possible, most people tend to stay for at least 2 nights, gives people a chance, the bride and groom, to stay at the house, not feel rushed while they're preparing for their big day.
And since we don't offer catering or furniture rental or in-house coordination, there are no hidden fees or add-ons. It's just a flat fee for the rental and accommodations.
This model works well for us because it streamlines the operation and also maximizes our revenue.
Once we had our pricing dialed in, the next challenge was figuring out how to handle our communication.
So the fourth way that we've simplified our wedding venue operations is to manage all communication through Wedding Pro.
As short-term rental hosts, we're used to listing on Airbnb, which doesn't charge us a listing fee, but does take a percentage as commission for every booking that we take. Running a wedding business is the opposite. Our biggest lead source, Wedding Pro, charges an upfront fee.
And that cost isn't small. We do pay $6,500 per year for a Wedding Pro membership, but that does let us advertise on both Wedding Wire and The Knot, which are two very popular websites, and we get to manage all of our communication from a single dashboard.
That might sound like a big number, and it is, but if we just book one wedding via that platform, then it's already more than paid for itself.
And unlike Airbnb and Vrbo in the short-term rental space, where a platform fee is deducted from every booking, whenever there's a wedding booking, we keep 100% of the proceeds.
We get almost all of our leads from Wedding Pro, but one of the biggest benefits isn't just the advertising, it's how it simplifies our communication.
Instead of managing leads across social media or email or other booking sites or platforms, we get all the communication from Wedding Pro, The Knot, and Wedding Wire in one nice dashboard.
And when we do get leads that come in through social media or email, we have a shortened link to direct them over to Wedding Wire. It's not a perfect site, and there are definitely areas that frustrate me sometimes and they could improve on, especially on the vendor side, but it does keep everything organized in one place to reduce the chance of leads slipping through the cracks.
Most couples start with similar questions when they first reach out, so to make our operations more efficient, we templated some responses with ChatGPT and saved those to our Wedding Pro account.
We have one templated response for just a standard inquiry where we share a little bit about the venue, our occupancy limits, and attach a copy of our brochure.
We also have a template for when someone reaches out with a high guest count. We politely explain what our occupancy limit is and then say if they're at all flexible with their guest counts, we'd be happy to discuss further.
And then we also have two different follow-up templates. And this is something that we didn't add until we were about 4 or 5 months into opening the wedding venue. And we noticed a big increase in response when we did.
We actually took a booking where a bride didn't respond to our first message or our first follow-up, but on the second follow-up, she did engage, she booked a tour, and then ended up booking a wedding.
It's your dream wedding venue.
People get busy, or they don't check their email, or maybe they need to talk to their partner and then end up forgetting to reply. So having a system for following up has been a game changer.
But using templated messages doesn't mean our responses are robotic. We always personally answer any questions that our template doesn't cover.
And to keep the conversation going, at the end of our standard reply, we add a little PS encouraging couples to share their engagement story with us.
It's a small thing, but I think it kind of breaks the ice with people and makes the conversation feel a little more personal than just a transactional thing of booking a venue and moving on.
I like to read them too, but the more connection we can build with the couples, the more likely they are to book with us.
The fifth way we've simplified our wedding venue operations is to limit tour days to 1 time per month.
When we first started, we booked a tour whenever a couple requested one, but it quickly became a scheduling nightmare.
Because we don't live locally, we had to hire our local assistant for this, who does tours and other things of the property, but scheduling one-off tours at random times was not a good use of his time, our money, so we stopped doing that.
Instead, we batch all of our venue tours into 1 day per month. We block off an afternoon to evening, set up different time slots, and then couples can go on and reserve a time that works for them.
At first, we were trying to coordinate and manually schedule tours through Wedding Pro messaging. This worked, but it really wasn't the most efficient system.
So now we use Calendly, which has made the whole process a lot easier.
We set up 30-minute time slots, and guests can book one of the slots that work for them. Then Calendly handles all the admin work, like sending confirmation emails, blocking the time on our calendar, and then sending a follow-up reminder email when the appointment is coming.
Since switching to this system, we've had fewer no-shows, and the whole process just runs a lot more smoothly.
And we found that limiting the tour availability kind of creates a sense of urgency. With there only being 1 tour day per month, guests are more likely to commit to a time so they can see the place versus putting it off further into the future.
I need to see it.
So those are the 5 biggest ways that we've streamlined our wedding venue operations to keep things simple and manageable even from out of state.
If you're thinking about turning your short-term rental into a wedding venue, or you just like to simplify your current operations, we hope that you found this video helpful.
Let us know in the comments if you would ever consider running a wedding venue remotely, or maybe you already do, and in that case, let us know what your biggest challenge has been.
And if you want to see more behind the scenes about how we set up and launch the castle as a wedding venue and short-term rental, here's a playlist of those videos linked on the screen.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.